Can virtual reality train the football brain? In this video, we are looking at the article, Effects of Virtual Reality-Based Cognitive and Technical Drills on Scanning and Passing Performance in Youth Football Players. It was published in BMC Sports Science, Medicine and Rehabilitation, by Erişik and colleagues. The main question is simple. Can VR training help young football players scan more, make faster decisions, and pass better? This study tested a 7-week virtual reality training program in youth football players. The focus was not physical fitness. It was perception, decision-making, scanning behavior, and passing performance. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Sports Science Insight. Here we break down sports science research into simple, practical, and evidence-based insights for athletes, coaches, and practitioners. Let's break it down. In football, the best decision often starts before the ball arrives. Scanning means looking around to collect information. Where are my teammates? Where is the pressure? Where are the free spaces? Where is the next passing lane? A player who receives the ball without scanning may need extra time to decide. But in football, extra time is often not available. Pressure arrives fast, options close quickly, and the pass that was open 1 second ago may disappear. That is why scanning matters. It helps players prepare decisions before they touch the ball. So the key idea is this: players who scan more can prepare better decisions. Traditional football training is important, but traditional drills do not always reproduce the perceptual pressure of a real match. A player may complete a passing drill perfectly in a predictable environment, but the game is different. The game has opponents, teammates moving at different speeds, limited time, changing spaces, and constant information to process. This is where virtual reality may help. VR can create dynamic and visually rich scenarios. It can expose players to cognitive load. It can force them to scan, decide, and execute under pressure. So the message of this slide is clear. Football is not only physical, it is perceptual and cognitive. This was a randomized controlled study with 22 male youth football players from under-16 and under-17 squads. The players were divided into 2 groups. The VR group had 11 players. The control group also had 11 players. The VR group completed 3 sessions per week, for 7 weeks, using the SensiballVR platform. These sessions were added to their regular football training. The control group continued regular field-based training only. The study then evaluated players during small-sided games. This is important because small-sided games create more touches, more decisions, and more opportunities to scan and pass. So the VR group trained perception and passing in addition to normal football practice. The VR training was designed to be football-specific. It was not just a player wearing a headset and watching a video. The system included immersive visual scenarios and football-related drills. The players trained shoulder scans, peripheral vision, multi-object tracking, working memory, and time-pressured passing decisions. The platform also used haptic feedback shoes and motion tracking to create more realistic foot-to-ball interaction. The idea was to combine what the player sees, how the player decides, and how the player executes. That is the key point. The goal was to train the eyes, the brain, and the pass together. This makes VR interesting for football development, not as a replacement for the pitch, but as a controlled way to increase cognitive and perceptual training demands. The researchers measured 2 major outcomes. First, scanning behavior. They divided scanning into 3 categories: scanning before receiving the ball, scanning during ball control, and scanning off the ball. Second, passing performance. They analyzed one-touch passes, controlled passes, and passes after 3 or more touches. They also classified passes as short, penetrative, or long, and they looked at whether the pass was successful or unsuccessful. This is a strong part of the study, because it did not just ask whether the players improved in a general way. It looked at what players saw, and what they did next. Scanning plus passing, perception plus action. That is exactly what football performance requires. This was the strongest result of the study. The VR group improved scanning frequency across all 3 domains. Before ball reception, scanning increased dramatically. During ball control, scanning increased. And off the ball, scanning also increased. The article reported very large mean percentage increases in the VR group, about 456% before ball reception, about 223% during ball control, and about 199% off the ball. The control group showed much smaller changes. This suggests that VR training strongly influenced visual exploration behavior. In simple terms, the players looked around more, they collected more information, and they did that in different moments of play. The strongest effect was visual exploration. The passing results were promising, but more selective. The VR group improved significantly in one-touch short successful passes. This matters because one-touch passing requires fast perception and fast execution. There is almost no time to look after the ball arrives. The decision has to be prepared early. The VR group also improved in penetrative successful passes during the control pass condition. That means players may have become better at finding passes that break lines or move the ball into more dangerous spaces. But the results were not universal. Multi-touch passes showed little change. And some passing outcomes should be interpreted as exploratory. So the message is balanced. VR helped most when decisions had to be fast. The clearest link was between better scanning and faster passing actions. Now we need to be careful. This study is exciting, but it is not definitive. The sample was small, only 22 players participated. They were all male youth players. The study came from a single football academy. The intervention lasted 7 weeks. And performance was assessed in small-sided games, not full official 11 versus 11 matches. That matters. Improving in small-sided games is valuable, but it is not the same as proving match dominance in real competition. There is also another important point. The VR group received extra training exposure, so some improvement may be related to additional practice time, novelty, or motivation. Future research needs larger samples, active control groups, full match analysis, and longer follow-up. So the correct interpretation is, promising, but not final. So what should coaches take from this study? First, VR may help train scanning habits. Second, it may improve the way young players prepare decisions before receiving the ball. Third, it may support fast passing actions, especially one-touch and penetrative passes. Fourth, VR should be used as a complement to field training, not as a replacement. The pitch is still essential. Players need real opponents, physical contact, tactical context, fatigue, and team interaction. But VR can add something valuable: repeated exposure to decision pressure, a controlled environment, and perceptual cognitive training that can be difficult to reproduce consistently on the field. The bottom line is this: VR should support field training, not replace it. If this video helped you, leave a like, subscribe to Sports Science Insight, and stay tuned for more evidence-based content on training, recovery, and performance. And tell me in the comments, would you use VR training with young football players? Or do you think decision-making should be trained only on the field? See you in the next breakdown.